changed it today because I changed it the day after just to keep the blood and stuff off of the wound. But he's got 10 stitches across his finger. It goes from that part of the knuckle all the way across to that part of the knuckle, and it makes it big. So it kind of looks like locked it up really good. He's got it in the splint, so he can't move it.
Friends, let's begin to settle back in for business. I'd like to call on David Milliken to come forward and give us a report from the Finance Committee.
Good afternoon, friends. This one may be the briefest report you can have today. We're going to have our budget day at Archdale on September 21st. And if there's any problem with the location, it may be at another location, but we will send you an email to confirm that. So plan for your budget day, September 21st, Saturday, 10 a.m. at Archdale.
David.
Yes, ma'am.
We've got a question for you. All right, last year, our church, Thomasville, didn't get their numbers in because we've had issues after I got there. We had issues with communication with me. So we've since fixed that problem, but we didn't get it this year either. How can we send you the correct numbers?
The deadline is August 30th.
Okay.
So you're still good.
Okay.
So if you haven't gotten your numbers in,
Okay.
we need to get them to Roger by my birthday, August 30th.
Okay.
So everybody remember that.
Happy birthday.
That's right. Yep. If you haven't gotten your form, let us know and we will send it to you. But we need to get those numbers to Roger by the end of this month. Any other questions? Thank you.
Monica, do you have anything for us additional from the program committee? Not at this time. Okay. Let me call on Judy Ritter then to report from Ministry and Council.
Good afternoon, friends. Judy Ritter, I'm presiding clerk of FCNC Ministry and Council, and we have a wonderful recommendation to bring to this body at this time. FCNC Ministry and Council received from Yankton Valley Quarterly Meeting and approved placing the names of the pastor of Friends Church Baltimore, Gilbert Mbaye to go under the care of FCNC Recording Committee. Now, that's all part of FCNC Ministering Council, but Wade Craven told me long ago, Ministering Council can't do anything without the general body's approval. So I bring that to you. But I think I need to give the other recommendation from our Ministering Council meeting just prior to that, and that is Yakin Valley Quarterly Meeting also recommended the placing of the associate pastor of Friends Church Baltimore, Ronald. They're looking at me wondering, is she going to get it? And Sakia. I talk Southern in case you didn't know, so I can't get the syllables right. But Ronald is associate pastor, and both of them ask. White Plains Friends meeting is the Clearness Committee for Yakin Valley Quarterly Meeting, working with Friends Church Baltimore in a preparatory status. And so the request did come through them to our Ministering Council, Yakin Valley Quarter, and then they did work with the individuals and did make the recommendation. And so then we approved and bring that recommendation just to say that, and some of you know them from the years that they've already been coming to annual session. I would ask you, Clerk, to ask for approval for each of these individually at this time. Unless there's comments or discussion. We could have individuals to speak to them. Would you like to have anyone share? I know you heard, if you were here on Saturday night last year, Gilbert did have words they were singing, and I think he shared testimony or words, and I'm not sure about Ronald. I don't remember, but they have been among us before.
Would Friends approve Gilbert and Maya going under the care of the recording committee? Thank you very much. Would Friends approve Ronald Sikii going under the care of the recording committee? Thank you again.
He's from the north of me, so he don't speak it Southern.
Actually, a little bit east. I'd like to call on Brenda McKinney to come and speak to us a little bit about FUM and FWCC at this time.
Thank you, Roger. I have some exciting news from FUM. I am so thrilled. The FUM staff has completed a $1.25 million grant to the Lilly Foundation for what they have called the Samuel Project. Samuel literally heard God calling him, and this project is designed for youth between the ages of 6 and 12 to nurture them in prayer and worship. I'm very excited because we haven't been doing a whole lot, I think, for that age group. So I am telling you about this because I am also asking for your prayers. Because while this grant has been submitted, it's going to be a few months before we find out if it really is fulfilled. The plan with that money, what are you going to do with that money, is there will be a coordinator hired who will overlook the whole project. And then underneath that coordinator will be 4 regional coordinators who will work with our yearly meetings and individual monthly meetings in nurturing our children. So it's called the Samuel Project, so just remember that in your prayers. Another project that's really close to the North Carolinians, especially our Quaker men, is the Singing for Shepherds fundraising. Many of you will recall that several years ago, the Quaker men raised enough money to drill a well in Samburu. And it was at a time of tribal warfare and cattle rustling, and the civil engineer who was in charge of the project died suddenly of a heart attack, and just like everything that could go wrong went wrong. But since then, that money has been used for a sustainability project. They have built the Lovesick Empowerment Center, which is a large building with 5 different rooms that people rent and use it for selling their items, their craft items, or whatever they wish to sell. So the money is being well used. Singing for Shepherds, I hope you saw the article concerning it last month in our newsletter. And in this month in our Advocate, and I'm saying this because us USFW ladies are very good at reading our Advocates because we keep up with missions. There's a good article in there by Emily Provence about the Singing for Shepherds. It is on September the 15th, is a Sunday, and it happens from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And during this time, it's like a telethon is what it is. It's a fundraising project for people to tune in by Zoom, and they can hear a short message about I am the Good Shepherd. They can listen to choir singing, to individuals singing, to prayers being lifted up for Samburu and Turkana. They'll have videos, they'll have pictures, they'll have reports of people who have been to Turkana and Samburu talking about their experience. So it's going to be a wonderful, fun-filled day. It's on a Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6, and of course they do want people to call in and help raise funds because Samburu and Turkana both are always grossly underfunded. Even though there are many people who give monthly, it still takes a lot of money for that area of the country. And another hope that will come from this project, several years ago, you will recall, we started raising money for girl child education. I don't know if you can recall that we do that, but we helped girls to finish their education because many times the 11 and 12-year-olds, they had to stay at home, they had to look after the farm, the livestock. It's not much of a farm, it's an arid region, but look after the livestock. And they were not able to go to high school, get an education. But now, the funding that we've been giving these girls, we have many success stories of girls who've actually completed education. There have been some of them who've gone on to be teachers. So that program has been great. So if we raise enough money, we hope to begin education for the boys. Because what's happening with them, you know about the drought in Turkana, and then they had heavy rains, caused a lot of flooding and a lot of destruction, and livestock are at a premium. So they recruit these 11 and 12-year-old boys as cattle rustlers because they're quick. So the hope is that we would have enough money from this fundraising that we could start a boys' education project as well as the girls. We did it for the girls to keep them from being married off at ages 11 and 12. And now we're doing the same thing for boys, that they will have an education and can have a better future. So that's our FUM news. FWCC. I don't know if you remember, but early in our history as FCNC, we had a list of 10 organizations and affiliations that we didn't give money to because we thought they were too liberal. FWCC was one of them. And I kind of led the charge for a couple years later to reinstate FWCC because Kenyans are a part of FWCC. And they were like, why are you not a part of FWCC, because it's a really big deal in Kenya. And the other place that it's a really big deal is Central and South America, who are evangelical friends. There's a couple of churches, friends of mine, that actually has holiness in their name. They're a Friends Holiness meeting. Robin Moore just recently resigned as executive secretary, and Robin is the one that I give a great deal of credit for making FWCC more evangelical, because of the relationship that has been developed between us and our South American and Central American neighbors, because we are part of a section of the Americas. We say we are from the Arctic to the Andes. I was on the search committee to find the new executive secretary. We had people applying for the job from Canada to Argentina. On the search committee, we had the clerk of Bolivia yearly meeting, Gualberto Torres, who was evangelical. We had Nelson Ayala from El Salvador, who's evangelical. You've got Kevin Mortimer from Berkeley College. Do you get the picture? So our new executive secretary is Evan Welkin from the Pacific Northwest yearly meeting. When I got his resume and read it, he's a Guilford College graduate and a Quaker Leadership Scholars Program person. I had to pick up the phone and call my daughter and say, "Do you know Evan Wilkin?" And she did. And then I find out Michael knows him too and went to Guilford at the same time. My daughter's younger, so Evan is in between she and Michael. So Evan is our new executive secretary, and we are very, very happy that someone as well qualified as he is could step into Robin's shoes. Now if you picked up one of these about our workshops tomorrow afternoon, I would like to give a little disclaimer here. Workshop 2 was the FWCC World Plenary in South Africa, which I have been watching and listening, and it's really very interesting and it's good, but it's sort of disjointed in that there's not one section that I felt like you would be interested in seeing. It's just bits and pieces, and I'm not technologically competent enough to do that. However, there is a wonderful lecture given by Robin Moore on living the spirit of Ubuntu, which was the theme for this year's World Plenary, which is being held in South Africa. Ubuntu is a Zulu word that means we are, I am because you are. It's a concept that we should be cherishing each other because we are each other. But Robin gives a great talk about what living the spirit of Ubuntu is, and she's got all these wonderful stories that demonstrate what Ubuntu is. So tomorrow's workshop, it won't be so much the World Plenary as the theme, and we're going to have that in the Old Lodge in the fireplace room. Joy Britt Bevis will be doing her presentation here in this room, and then the question and answer with Samuel and Christina will be very informal in the ping pong room, which has some nice, comfortable seats. So, thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Brenda. I'd like to call on Wayne Finnegar from Quaker House and the North Carolina Committee on Friends Legislation. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. All right.
I only ever do the letters, I had to think a second. Thank you, friends. I didn't actually know I was going to be talking on FCNCL, so I'll have to wing that a little bit. Second year I've been with you all, it's a real pleasure to come back. I actually recognized a few faces and was stunned that some people recognized me. Thank you. It's wonderful to be with you again. Frequently what happens when I come and do these visits, I have this nice plan of what I'm going to say, and then someone else talks before me and I completely throw away what I was going to say. Today it was your superintendent his speech was fabulous. I visit on average 7 to 8 yearly meetings in a given calendar year, and that was one of the best presentations I've heard from a superintendent or a general secretary in years. As a former general secretary of Baltimore yearly meeting, I thank you, and I'm just blown away with your message today. That said, I'm going to segue from it because the work of Quaker House is sort of the exact opposite of what he talked about. He talked about a vision of growth. The most basic part of the mission of Quaker House is to end wars, to bring the world to a place where there are no more militaries because there's no more need for militaries. At which point, I can go to my board and say, we're done. Fire me, sell the house, we're out of business. Sadly, I fear that we've got a ways to go on that work. Until then, our most basic mission is to address the damage, the harm, the injury done to people who directly participate in the military. If they ever say to someone, you must be a CO or we won't talk to you. We never say, thank you for calling the GI Rights Hotline. You have a problem, but if you don't want to get out, then we're going to hang up the phone. That is not the way of friends. The way of friends is always to find the answer that is right for that person. We will give as much information as possible, but we wait for the person to find their discernment. One of my jobs is to go around and talk about all of the things I just said. But the other part of my job is to talk to meetings, whether local meetings, local work churches, or yearly meetings about how to grow our entire community. In fact, I forgot to bring them in, but I'm going to be putting a packet over there about a project we call the Quaker House Toolbox, which is intended to provide information, options, programs that worshiping communities can consider doing that will, not surprisingly, talk about peace and increase the visibility of peace work in your community. But it also relates to your message from earlier. It increases the visibility of your community. I grew up Quaker. I've gone through many versions of the, oh wait, I've never met a Quaker before. And then I have to answer the standard questions. Yes, we're allowed to have sex, those were the Shakers. Obviously, we don't have to wear the funny clothes. No, I don't have oatmeal every day for breakfast, etc. The more times people see friends in the world, the more opportunities for somebody to get past those 5 questions, for you all to say, here is what my witness is. I came out of an unprogrammed friends meeting about as radically liberal as they come, so I'm not going to say, for me, that my witness has to do with the message of Jesus Christ and the Bible in the ways that you all do. I use different language, but that doesn't make my language any better or any worse than how you would do it. The key is for somebody to walk up to you and say, I've never spoken to a Quaker before. Get past the questions, and for you to tell them what your experience of the light, what your experience of God is. That's how you get more bodies to come to meeting. That's how you get more bodies to come to church. That's how you get more children to come, which is the life of every worshiping community. And hopefully, then more people will sign up to be conscience objectors, and I get to put myself out of business eventually. So that's my Quaker House hat. Friends Committee on North Carolina Legislation. I know much less about the history of this group. So if anybody asks me questions and I go, I don't know, then I apologize, I'll find out the answer. It is the attempt to create a lobbying organization for the Religious Society of Friends here in North Carolina, similar to the model of Friends Committee on National Legislation on the national level. I'm on the communications committee, and honestly, one of my complaints is that it is very, very heavily dominated by unprogrammed friends, by more liberal friends, frequently less Christocentric friends. Yes, that's the tradition I came out of course, but I know that's not all of the community here in North Carolina. The only way for FCNCL to truly represent all of our community is for people in Friends Churches of North Carolina to become part of that organization and to participate with us, either on the yearly meeting level or as individual churches. As in the same way that I'm sure you've gotten those messages from DC, help us decide what to lobby about. Help us decide what issues matter that are affecting your community that can be worked on that will be consistent with our testimonies. Absolutely. There are possibilities that some of your concerns will be different than at Fayetteville Friends Meeting or at Durham Friends Meeting, just as they are between Iowa Yearly Meeting and Baltimore Yearly Meeting. The job isn't to say, you're wrong, you're right. The job of FCNCL is to find ways to be the voice of our entire community in this state. Like I said, I hadn't planned this, so if I sound like I'm evangelizing a little bit, I apologize. I grew up in DC. I think lobbying is an incredibly powerful thing if done well and done right. I have watched FCNL all of my life be a voice for a very, very small community in this country who was able to influence policy way beyond the size of Friends. I think FCNCL could do the same thing, but we need the voice of all types of friends, not just the liberal, unprogrammed friends, but also Friends churches. If I could get the EFI churches to answer our calls, we would talk to them too. So I would be happy to talk about either of the two groups later on. I appreciate your time very much, and I'm looking forward to spending the rest of the 2 days with you.
Well, this portion of our meeting agenda is moving along a little quicker than I'd anticipated, so we're going to have a little extra time. But Erin Mittmeyer asked me to allow her to come up and explain our evening meal and our choices and what we have to look forward to. So, Erin, here you go.
So we decided to do things a little different tonight. In honor of Samuel being here, out this door you will find a food truck from Nancy, and it's Mexican food made to order. I can attest, it's one of my favorite places to eat. She's here in Level Cross and sets up, if you live around here, by the fire department and the ball field. And so it's really yummy. But for those that may not want to adventure into Mexican, we also have Marsha's food truck catering from Liberty. She didn't want to bring her food truck this far, so she's set up over here, and that menu includes chicken pie, green beans, mashed potatoes, more traditional Southern food. There's going to be tea in there for everybody, sweet tea, and then obviously we have all our snacks. So I offer you can taste a little bit of both if you'd like, but there's going to be burritos, tacos. There's one other thing that Miss Nancy will have, as well as Mexican street corn. So please enjoy, and we're glad you're here.
And she'll make it not spicy for you if you can't do spices.
She put it on mine. She put spice on mine.
Okay.
Good to know. Good to know. Let's see, I had a couple of things. One was that we had a regret from Etta Florence Winslow that she wasn't going to be able to to be at this meeting. She's fine, she's well, there's no problem health-wise, she just can't be here. Anybody else have any regrets, any messages? Yes, Mom.
Bev Jessup said, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend this year. The storm has slowed down things here. In my regards and prayers for all.
Okay, thank you.
Roger,
Yes.
I came in a little late, might have missed something. Ross Hobson, currently in South Africa at the FCNC meeting.
Yes, yeah, Rossi Hobson is our representative at the FWCC plenary in South Africa. And David asked me earlier to convey their appreciation to this body for allowing her to go, to help send her down there. So we do have a representative in South Africa today. If nothing else at this time, I'd like to close this portion of our meeting with prayer and a blessing for our food, and we'll have a little bit of time before we eat. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we give thanks for this day and for this opportunity. We thank you for what we've heard today. We thank you for the messengers that have brought the messages to us. We ask that you help us to internalize it, not forget it. We ask that you help us remember to act on it as we go from here. Please bless this food of which we're about to partake. Bless it so that it may nourish our bodies, give us strength to do your will. In Jesus' name, amen.